In 2016, a Czech operator named Oskar joined the International Organization of Mouse Sports and took the organization to new heights as they won 4 different tournaments while he was tenured with the team, and also gained 2 top 20 appearances throughout his tenure on Mouse Sports. But after rumors began to spread of him being a bad teammate and a slew of bad tournaments as well, Oskar was benched from Mouse Sports, and it began his journeyman phase of his career as he bopped from teams like Hellraisers and Sprout and still put up outstanding numbers but couldn't get the results that he was actually looking for. But in a last-ditch attempt, Oskar decided to return to his domestic roots and underwent a complete revitalization of his career through the domestic Czech team of the Sinners. Now, Beastic calls a completely different style in comparison to the other IGLs that Oskar has played with. He calls a much more explosive T side and a much more aggressive CT sides. And from the turret style of opping that Oskar had in the beginnings of his career on Mouse Sports, Oskar now had to completely revitalize and revamp his career on Sinners in order to keep up with the team and bring down the pain in a different fashion alongside the explosive riflers of Neofrag and Beastic. Now, I wanted to take a look at the differences in how Oskar has played his game from the 2018 version of him compared to the 2021 version of him. I'll go through the stats here and show the minute differences, and then we'll jump into the demos and you'll get a bigger picture as to how Oskar has completely changed his playstyle and is much more aggressive and much more intuition driven compared to that turret style opping that he was known for back in 2016 to 2018. So this is his ratings all time during his time in Mouse Sports, and you can see here he has outstanding statistics all in all against tier 1 opponents. So it didn't really, in my opinion, I don't think it really was cause for concern for Oskar to be benched from the squad. But, you know, things happen. Players move apart, and he had to find a way to bring himself back into relevancy. And now with EPL Group B going underway, the Sinners have marched through advanced all the way to Pro League in a matter of months, really. And it's been impressive to see how Oskar has really brought that veteran leadership and revitalization of the squad to bring him back to the top of Counter-Strike. So let's compare it to the current statistics of Oskar with his stint on Sinners. So you see here, the one thing that jumps out is obviously the rating. It's slightly above 1.15, obviously, but I think the main thing to point out here is the reason why that rating has increased is when we look at the KAST, the kills, assists, survive, traded. I really pride myself on to how much I value that statistic. It really tells a much more rounded picture of the player. And you see here 72.9% as compared to the 69.5% that Oskar had on Mouse Sports. Now this statistic is going to be much more important going down the road for throughout all the demos that I show. He's much more willing to throw utility and he plays. But the other thing is that he also plays for himself more often. He understands his positioning on the T side where he is willing to go in third, but he's also willing to go in first and try to create openings for the team. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is these statistics here. So when we go to the overall individual statistics of Oskar on Mouse Sports, we look at the kill ratio here. He has a 1.35 KR, which is outstanding, honestly. 1.35 is still great. You're still creating opportunities for your team, and you have like a 19.6% first kill in 1 rounds percentage. So these ratings are already pretty good for him. But if you see on his time on Sinners, obviously there are less kills recorded because you know it's a smaller sample size. But the opening kill ratio here is 1.67, which is honestly much higher, and a lot of it has to do with how much more initiative he's taking as a CT opper and a T opper, where he is willing to take more risks in his game because he believes in his aim more than sitting back in a system and popping off in short spurts. with this style of play, he's able to snowball rounds into his favor and really create momentum for Sinners and push them forward throughout many of these maps. The other statistic that I want to point out, the last one, is as far as the weapons are concerned, on his time in Mouse Sports, he was rifling more. So Mouse Sports was more willing to play 5 rifles, and Oskar bought into that system and had an 11.92 percentage for his AK-47 kills, and used the still 56.36% of the time. So it's still a lot more, but the AK was still used prominently in a time in Mouse Sports. Now, on the time in Sinners, Oskar has now prioritized the AWP way more than he did on his time with Mouse Sports. Now a whopping 63%, around 63% of the time, he will be getting his kills with the AWP, and he's brought that AK-47 rating down to 9.09%. This is probably because of the explosive nature of his teammates. Now, the core of the Sinners have always been a very brute force nature of their AK-47 style, and they've been very keen on getting openings with their very precise first bullet accuracy. Now, with this being in mind, Oskar doesn't necessarily have to be the front runner for rifling, and can more reorient himself to performing on the AWP, and you'll see that in these demos where he takes matters into his own hands. So with all of these statistics and intro out of the way, let's jump into the demos and really discover as to how Oskar has completely changed his playstyle. So the last around the last series that Oskar played for Mouse Sports was against Prime Astralis here. This is when the Astralis core was at their peak. They were winning tournament after tournament, and Oskar still was able to put up good numbers against this team. However, I want to show you how timid in comparison he will be in 2021 with how he played in 2018. So this is the first round that Oskar gets his AWP. He goes for a mid peak. It's not necessarily very aggressive per se, but it's just a standard mid peak that they like to that most operators like to peek out in. But as you can see with the minimap, Astralis is now executing onto the B site, and this kind of leaves Sticko alone on an island on the B bomb site, and this is going to come into factor later when these smokes come down. So they smoke off market, they smoke off the entrance to market as well, and now we're getting to a point where Oskar has a decision to make. He has a teammate here in underpass, he has Sticko here on the site, and he has Sunny coming up catwalk, right? So in most senses, rather than leaving Sticko alone on the bomb site, Oskar has basically two options. He can either aggress down into the bomb site, like so, and take a fight here, try to find a sightline onto apps here, or find a sightline on apps here. Or he could try to see if there's anybody that pushed into the art side and fight that way. Or the decision that he will make here is he'll wait for his teammates like Rops to come from all the way from A site, and Sunny to actually come up all the way to Cat, and Chris J's for flank to activate. Now, in some practices this may work, but in the case against Astralis, it simply doesn't, because, you know, the B bomb site requires a lot more risks to be taken, because once that bomb goes down, things get really hairy, right? There's a lot of angles to clear out. You see here, he hesitates, right? But once Sticko goes 1-for-1 and Chris J's flank immediately fails, Oskar says, okay, well, I don't think that I'm good enough to push up into the side and push past the smoke. I don't feel like I can catch the timing, right? So he waits. Rops is now here with him in market, and so they push up. But again, those angles are so hard to clear at this point. A resmoke comes in for the window position on market, and Dupree is locked in. He can't, and now Oskar can't do anything in this side. The round is lost. So in this case, you see this decision making that Oskar makes, where he makes a conscious decision to play the 3v3. Now let's jump into another round on Sinners and see how he is much more proactive and tries to take matters into his own hands, albeit for lesser teams. So on their road to qualification, they had to go through Big, one of the top 10 teams in the world right now, and I want to show you how Oskar really took away the space from Big with a scout no less on this map. So it's a full buy for for Big Clan, but Oskar is playing the bonus round and decides to go aggressive in the underpass. So unlike Oskar against Mousesports, where he's just taking the standard slightly passive mid peak, he's going aggressive with a scout, obviously. So he has to hit the headshot, or he has to or he has to switch to his pistol, right? So Zedco's goes a little aggressive here. Oskar has an option to still peek in a mid. Searson's more trained on the sniper position, and he gets a little tag here on Searson. But at this point, right, he has an option. He can go all the way back through underpass and re-evacuate back into the B apps, right? Or he can aggress. Now, 2018 Mousesports Oskar might have pushed through underpass and gone all the way back into apps. He's gotten a scout tag. It's pretty good. But like Zedco here, a much more aggressive player, Oskar decides to help out his teammate here and go more aggressive in the underpass. And you'll see how much value it provides to the team here. So Zedco goes 0 for 1. And now Oskar will try to trade this out, really. So he switches to a deagle. He knows that Chijin was damaged here, and he throws a nade to boot. Again, there he had an option to back out all the way through underpass and go back to mid, back to A. But he decided to stick to his ground and play till death. He knows it's a bonus round. And so he has that conscious decision to fight Tapson here. And he wins that fight as well. And now he has all of B locked in key by himself, right? So he throws that smoke. And now it's very difficult for the T's to come through. And to push the issue even further, he decides to push the smoke. Because obviously the Big Clan members will respect this. And he tries to get even more information. Obviously, it's a 4v2. It could teeter out of control. But in this case, it gets him so much information that the big players are rotating back. And with this, 2 players on the A bomb side, they've read this situation very well. And Neofrag, the other star of the team, he's able to read this very well. Drops the bomb against Zantares. Doesn't win the fight against Quito, but Shock is there to trade immediately. So this more aggressive Oskar boded well on a bonus round for Sinners, much less a full buy round for the squad. So more proactive decision making and supporting of the teammates to make more aggressive plays really is worth its weight in gold, and is a prime reason as to why the Sinners are so successful in the tier 2 space. So obviously Astralis' home map remains to be Inferno to this day, honestly, and I wanted to show you how Oskar plays against this Inferno style of Astralis, and nothing really happens in this round, but I want to really showcase how he's deciding what he's going to do in these rounds. So he has the AWP in this round. It's a full buy across the board except Chris J on an MP7, and I want you to see what he does here. So he stations himself in apps for the entire round. Much more passive line. You're not really gaining much information out of this, and this in turn is going to really mess with the rotations of Mousesports, and the lack of information is really going to hurt them. So they rotate a third player back in, and although it's a much riskier play to push up all the way in apps with the buddy system, once he's flashed off the angle, now it's really up in the air as to what can happen. And the execute immediately comes up from Astralis on the B site. And now the rest of the A players have to just scramble. They lose the trades, and Oskar just has to save. Now, let's say this team was much more proactive in this situation, and they were able to aggress down the apps, right? If they, for some reason, kill Zipnix, they can understand that he's the lurker of the situation. So in that case, they could send Rops on a faster mission at the B site, and now you have 3 players on the B bomb site, and maybe you can trade more efficiently and stop the bomb from going down. But instead, Oskar decides to play much more passive and really refuses to gain information for the squad. It is the more sensible play, but in an age of Counter-Strike now, where aggression could really break that passive mentality of a team, Oskar has really shown on the Sinners how he can take matters into his own hands. So let's jump into a demo that he had against Fiend, the Bulgarian super team or whatnot, and you'll see the differences clearly as to how he's playing the game on Inferno. The chips are down for Sinners on this round. They have pushed Fiend to an overtime situation, and now Oskar has to clutch it out for this squad. So he has he has, again, the set of decisions that he can make. He might be able to play more passively and confirm a couple kills, or he can get information for his team and take advantage of the more passive and timid nature of Fiend in the situation where they're trying to get the team over the line, and rather than playing to win, they're playing not to lose, right? So with the AWP in this situation, and a completely different Oskar is going to be put on display here. So he decides to so Zedko goes aggressive in mid. It's a common thing for this squad. And Oskar decides to play aggressive in Boiler with an AWP, no less. And you see here, they the Fiend members completely eradicate the mid push, and now Oskar is between a rock and a hard place. The only member on the A bomb site. Watch how he just locks it down. So he'll peek out here. He knows Red Star is coming with it with an AK. If he gets first bulleted, the round is over. But instead, he immediately eliminates him, throws a molly to make sure that there's no trade potential, and he goes, instead of evacuating into the A bomb site where the Apps player Dreamer can easily take him out, he decides to re-aggress into Boiler and see if he can get even more information. So he goes in here, doesn't spawn anybody bridge, and if you see there, he can hear Bubble on his right, he can hear Dreamer on his left, and he's calming all this information, right? So Oskar decides to push and catch a timing on Bubble here. So Beastic does get a kill on the arch side, and watch this. A kill on Bubble, the bomb is dropped, and now the round is very easily winnable because he's heard Dreamer in drop down into the A bomb site. But again, some miscoms happen here with Beastic going all the way down to the B bomb site, and so he rotates all the way back around, and meanwhile Oskar is still here trying to catch a timing on Dreamer. He's well aware that he's in the A bomb site, and although Dreamer hits a great shot, he's still low from this fight earlier, and Beastic manages to close out the round, and eventually so now he ties up the game, and eventually Sinners win this game in overtime. But you see how much more fearless Oskar is. He's more willing to take the apps into his and create it as his domain, and he absolutely steals away around here for the Sinners through his very intelligent and aggressive playing in the apps. Vertigo is a map that is unique in its design, in the sense that a lot of the macro and micro decisions that are made by the T side has to be much more snappier throughout all the calling from each individual. So in this case, I don't have a comparison, obviously, because Vertigo is a much newer map, but I want to show you the culmination of Oskar's game and how Sinners as a team is very good on Vertigo, and a lot of it has to come down to how active Oskar is at looking for picks, and how much more efficient his flight paths are as a T-opper. So immediately out the gates, he has a plan to go for the ramp peak on B site, and immediately wins the fight on Searson. It's a difficult shot to hit, but he hits it no less. So once he hits that, immediately, instead of re-aggressing on the B bomb site, he's playing like simple in the sense that he wants to go aggressive on another side of the map. So he reroutes to the A ramp, and now he's going to be just waiting for a slight aggression, obviously, because the ramp smoke is there. And so he walks up, and now he's going to look for another pick. The big side shouldn't be aware of Oskar being here, and he hears that jumping a little bit. And he peeks out, and he catches that jump shot, another really hard shot. And you see here, let's take a quick pause. Shock and the other two members of the Sinner squad are split up. So basically everybody is defaulting still in this scenario, but the thing is Oskar is on an island. Let's say he dies, the CT side can push up from behind, get bomb control, and this round can quickly spiral out of control, and Oskar is aware of that. So here, instead of aggressing onto the short shelf and trying to fight on Tizen, trying to find a pick on Tizen, the kill on Shock now motivates Oskar to regroup with his team and play the 3v3. So he'll completely re-evacuate. So this is very intelligent from Oskar. It brings back that more passive style that he used to play on mouse sports, and incorporates it very well here on Sinners as well. So he tries to play a little bit more supportive. He realizes that he might not be able to get a clear shot onto any players on the B bomb site, and he boosts up Beastic to try to get another pick on the pallets. So making sure he doesn't make any sound, he moves around. throws a nade, and here comes a flash as well to enable Beastic. He doesn't get the kill, but he does get information, right? And at this point, Zedko mops up the round, and now we're in a 2v1 scenario. Oskar gets a bomb down, and he's well aware that Chijin could be on the flank, right? So he does lose his teammate Zedko in the process, and now watch how he just maneuvers around this utility. He's well aware that Chijin is trying to dump utility, flush Oskar out of this position. But Oskar is very calm in how he plays this. He peeks out and hits a stunning 1v1 shot and gets that crucial round to break that streak of rounds that Big has been having, and eventually qualify for EPL off of this map alone. So I hope this really culminated Oskar's playstyle and how much he's changed throughout his time from Mousesports all the way to the Sinners. So that does it for this EPL Group B content. I wanted to take a look at Oskar because I've been following him for quite some time in the Tier 2 space, and it's great to see how much he's fought back to come back to the Tier 1 space. It's going to be a very exciting Group B for sure, with how competitive all these international rosters are going to make this group turn out. I hope you enjoyed this more structured video. I haven't done something like this before. A lot of this is new for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if there's any improvements that you'd like to see, or any players that you'd like to watch after watching this video, and maybe I can go through and do other comparisons for other veteran players that have fought their way back to the top. So if you like this video, make sure to subscribe, like this video as well. Again, drop those comments. I read every one, and I love your feedback for sure. So I'll catch you next week, maybe for Group C content. Still deciding what I'm going to do on that one, and I'm sure you'll be enjoying that content as much as I do making it. So I'll catch you next week, and have a great day. Peace.